Welcome to Africa Speaks. I'm Pamela Anchang. He is a global citizen, inspirational leader, a very successful social and serial entrepreneur, extremely enlightened, one of the greatest music producers alive, and needless to say, one of Africa's most impactful persons today. Senegalese American singer, songwriter, record producer, Akon, has had 27 songs on the Billboard Hot 100 and is the first artist to accomplish the feat of holding both the #1 and 2 spots simultaneously on the Billboard Hot 100 charts twice. Akon has sold over 35 million albums worldwide and is a 5-time Grammy-nominated artist who has collaborated with some of the biggest names in popular music from many genres. Rooted in music, Akon's social consciousness has propelled him to expand his vision to include renewable energy. Lighting Africa is a signature initiative which has placed him on the global stage as a multi-dimensional philanthropist, global entertainer, and in his own words, a social entrepreneur. In Hollywood, a star has really hit it big when they are only known by one name. Akon is one of such, and today on Africa Speaks, this remarkable superstar sits down with us to share his story as an American and African, and also, hopefully, teach us a few things about how to become a mega success doing good. So good to have you on Africa Speaks, Akon.
Nice, thank you for having me.
You know I want to start traditionally, Nangadef.
Nangi Fide.
Oh, that's wonderful. You know, when we are sitting at home, we want to speak our own language.
Right.
And this is our time. But why did you choose Akon to be your name? You have that long, beautiful Alun. Why did you pick Akon? I love it though.
It just felt right.
Really?
Yeah, it just felt right. I wasn't quite sure at the time if it was the right decision, but it was the right name that kind of was easy, only 4 letters, and it started with an A.
I know, you know, African names can be
They can
tough.
be long and hard to pronounce.
Sometimes we give our children
Right.
names, they can barely pronounce them,
Yeah.
their own names, right? But that's okay. That's
Absolutely.
Okay. So your story begins here in the United States, but I want to start from the beginning. Why did your parents come here in the first place?
Well, my father was a jazz musician. He played the percussions, and he was brought here by Miss Catherine Dunham out of East St. Louis. And she kind of scouted him in Senegal, saw him, and was amazed by him. My mom happened to be a dancer in the same group that my father used to play in. So, and Catherine was a dancer as well, and she wanted to do more of the African style, you know, rhythms and patterns. So when my father came to play drums for her, he also brought my mother down as a dancer as well.
Okay.
So within that aspect of it, we all ended up staying in the U.S. And then every time my mom was pregnant, she'd have one of us, and he'd ship us back to Africa.
Oh my God.
So we was all born in the States, but then shipped back shortly after birth.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
What was the intent for that?
You know, my pops was always a forward thinker, so he was always thinking perhaps maybe if I did that, growing up, they won't have any immigration problems in the future. Because you know how it was even back in the early 60s. It was tough, let alone foreigners, but for Africans to come to America without visas was you know,
I know.
it was tough.
So did that affect you, that reverse, kind of like migration, because you were born here and sent to Africa? How did you fit in back home in Africa? How old were you?
I came to the States when I was around 12. But it didn't affect me at all, actually, because I never even knew I was born in the States till later.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, after birth, you go straight to Africa. You don't, when you grow up, you're growing up in Africa.
That's true.
You know, so it was different for me. But when I came to the States, that's when the culture difference was kind of a little different for me.
And did that have an effect in your upbringing? Because somewhere along the line, we got in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, trouble gonna follow you as a kid. But I think being raised in Africa is what kind of kept me out of the major trouble.
Correct.
Outside of being just surrounded by the wrong crowd as a child, I wasn't really a major troublemaker. I just got into trouble.
Okay.
If that makes sense, because I was always someplace. And then, of course, when you're hanging with an entourage, it's always going to be some trouble created, but then I would always be the one to take the blame for everybody.
You weren't a snitch.
Right. No, I definitely wasn't the snitch. But I would be like, look, I did it. If nobody claimed it, look, I'll claim it. Because I was just a protector by nature.
Right.
You know, so I never wanted people around me to get into trouble or whatever, so I just took the blame for everybody.
So what can you tell our kids that we're having here, especially our sons? These are some tough times in the United States about what to do and why it's necessary to maybe stay out of trouble.
I mean, because trouble actually catches up to you later.
Right.
Because even now, like I have, even regardless of who I am today, I have to go through a whole process getting into Canada because of my past criminal history.
Wow.
When I go to Australia, I can't just go in without filing with my attorney to get, issues resolved and pay a bond to make sure that no trouble happens while I'm there, even though who I am today because of the past that happened when I was younger. So, no matter really what you do when you're younger, it's going to definitely affect you later for sure.
So regardless if you're Akon,
it don't even matter.
So start now. Make sure you keep it clean.
Right.
And but you seem to have followed your own path, and I understand your parents were into music. And most African parents, we're like, you got to be the doctor, the lawyer, and all of that.
Exactly.
How did that play out in your family?
Well, with me, it was a little bit different because in a way, my parents did kind of want us to be lawyers, doctors, and all of this. And I remember me saying when I was younger, I was going to be a brain surgeon. And then I realized how many years of school you had to go to be a brain surgeon.
Right.
So in my mind, I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that. But I would continue to make them believe I was going to be a brain surgeon up until the point when I realized I just wasn't going to be a brain surgeon. But ultimately, what saved me was the fact that my dad himself was a musician.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to tell your child that you can't be a musician when you are a musician. Even though they pushed us hardly away from it, but it actually worked out to our favor because now they're happy I decided to do that route.
I know, it's paid off big time.
Right.
Now I want to ask you a question. Now this is not my question, but my son loves music, and there's so many kids out there who love music, and we're raising all these kids here. And I have my own ways of raising them as an African mother. So he asked me to ask you this. He said, how did you handle adjusting your lifestyle to live in America but still hold on to your African values and discipline?
Well, the part that actually helped a lot was the fact that I was raised in Africa as a child. So that part, anything that you've done, anything that happens to you as a child just sticks to you. Right. When you grow, they tell you, okay, you have to follow these rules. They say you have to believe in this religion. They say you can't do this. You got to respect your elders. They give you all of the tools as a child that you actually embed within your brain that just follows you all the way through. Now, had I been raised in the States, going back the other way, then it'd be a totally different attitude. Different. But the fact that I was raised under family values, raised with, manners, and raised with all the family members being a part of raising you naturally, I think all those aspects kind of follow you growing up.
They certainly do.
Yeah.
Kids, immigrant children, and African children in particular, sometimes find themselves straddling, don't know when to be American, when to be African.
Right.
You find that straddling. How do you deal with that?
Well, I think it would depend on who you are, really. I think with African Americans, it's different because they've never been to Africa.
Right.
So if you're if you're African raised in America and you have African American friends, your mentality is going to be like the African American.
That's true.
If they say, nah, I ain't going to Africa, dog, you be like, man, I ain't going to Africa, dog.
That's true.
Because you really don't know. Because in America, they don't teach you anything positive about Africa. So your first instinct when, like a lot of my friends, when I used to mention Africa, they start shaking. Like they literally, it's so much fear that comes with Africa because of the history of how Africa was taught to the state and minds of African Americans. You just don't know unless you actually go there. And then you start to realize, when you start to see all the things that's being publicized in the media and things of that nature, it scares you.
It certainly does. I watched an interview where you talked about not teaching your children Black history, and I was like, wow, why wouldn't you teach your children Black history?
No, it's not really Black history. It's slavery.
Okay.
And racism and all of those things. I mean, history is going to be there no matter what, but I try to keep away all the history that's considered to be negative, that people utilize as an excuse to not produce or not to move forward. And more than anything, like, racism was one of the biggest reasons why, because I never wanted my kids to feel like their white friends were better than they was. Because in America, they create that avenue that whites are above blacks. It was always set up that way because blacks were brought into the country and then utilized as slaves.
Yes.
So you was always, you know, a minority from from a standpoint of, you can say, status.
Right.
So if a child grows up believing that, then that becomes embedded in his brain to believe that that's actually true. So I never went to the point where before, like, my kids, like, growing up, they had friends that was from all backgrounds. They look at each other as equals.
Yeah.
Unless you tell them, oh no, you can't hang with that person because he's white, or watch out for white folks, they say this, that, and the other. They don't know the difference between how they were treated in the past according to how the friends treat them today. They treat them like brothers. They don't know the difference. They don't even look at no color lines.
That makes sense because
You know?
eventually they're gonna know anyway. But by this time they have.
It won't matter because
built-
they know the truth.
Yes.
They see them as people. They don't see them as white people.
That is true.
You know what I mean?
That's true. Now I get clarity on that. Now let's talk about your music, which really has been good to you and good to a lot of people.
Right.
I know you've helped a lot of people. But let's talk about it how as it relates to people of African descent, and they're filled with all these creative juices, but it looks like they are not really taking advantage of all the aspects of music like you have done. You're not just an artist, you're more than an artist. How can we translate that to our up-and-coming artists about the opportunities? Because most of them are not going to make it to be an Akon.
Well, I mean, most of them are doing it because they just want to be famous. And I think that makes a difference in the artist and how much energy they put into it.
Yeah.
Because when you're doing it just to be famous, then once you're famous, then your goal is set. There's nothing else left.
That's true.
And most of them are famous before they even become big. You go on YouTube now, upload your video, you get 1 million hits, okay, now you're famous.
That's true.
Where do you go from there?
Exactly.
Right? So ultimately the idea is to diversify yourself musically, but you have to actually be a music person to understand music from a cultural standpoint, because everybody, you know, ingests music differently depending on where they're from and what culture they were brought up under. I was just, you know, blessed to be coming from Africa where there's no genres.
Right.
Music was just music. There was no such thing as, I didn't remember jazz, hip hop, reggae, country, you know, malach, all that being played differently.
That's true.
They play every type of music on the radio at the same time. It wasn't like there was just only a hip hop station, or, you know, only a traditional local station, or, I mean, they would play a local song right after Michael Jackson, then Bob Marley, then a hip hop record, you know? So we listen to music as a whole. So that gave me a huge advantage in the US. So it allowed me to be more diverse with my music as well too.
You know, that is so true. I remember loving all this country music
Right.
back home. And then I come here, people are like,
You
oh,
listen
like,
to country music? Right? We just heard hit records. That's it.
Yeah, I'm like Don Williams, Kenny Rogers. They're like,
Right.
my folks are like, something's wrong with you.
Like, how do you know that? Ain't you African?
Yeah, exactly. You're not supposed to like country music.
You're not even supposed to know what country music
No.
is. Yeah.
You know, you explained it so well. So let's talk about this up-and-coming genres. Now we're in genre territory. Afro-pop, it's
Right.
taken a different dimension, such a global dimension that it's being compared to like the new reggae, like it's taken over. What do you think is responsible for this blowout of Afro-pop?
I think the internet is responsible, you know, because Afropop's been really booming since 2010, honestly. But because of the internet now, it opens the door for more people to be able to expose it,
Yeah.
you know, like discover it in so many words. But also the younger generation understanding now more marketing.
Right.
Because America was built on marketing. Like when you look at the music videos today, it gives you a picture of what you just assume America is, but it's nothing like what you see in the video,
that's true.
right? Africa, on the other hand, when we did music videos, we literally did it in the village. And we dressed the same clothes we dress when we wake up.
I know.
No one looked like a superstar. So, and artists, they wonder why artists never really got bigger. You know, they was localized and that's where it ended. You know, they never got bigger than that. But now, the younger generation is a little bit different because it's more of a wave, they got a swag, they kind of understand the culture, and they also chipped away from American culture and incorporated within themselves as well too. So it's just, it kind of gave it a better, it's more attractive to watch now than it used to be.
You know, that is so true because now
Yeah.
our children here are finding something that they can be proud of.
100%.
Because those old videos with the dust,
Right.
and the hurts and everything, and it's true, it's our reality.
It's true.
But why do we gotta sell ourselves like that?
Exactly. Exactly.
That is so good. What's the difference between Afrobeat, Afropop, and Afrobeat? Because I had this argument, and I've heard a lot of people have this argument.
Well, I mean, between Afrobeat and Afropop, the difference is just a generation.
Okay.
And the music style as well too, because Afrobeat is more traditional, it's more percussion driven, and it's more local. Whereas Afropop is more younger, is wavier, and it's more hip hop and R&B to an extent, melody wise, incorporated within the rhythm. So you got more of a pop rhythm that is fused with Afrobeat. Does that make sense? It's a lot
makes
younger.
sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Well, I'm sure I'm gonna win a bet somewhere. And you've collaborated with some of those Afro pop artists. Most people love that one with PSquare.
Yeah,
Chop My Money.
Right.
That was a hit at every party.
Absolutely.
So what do you think is the impact of such collaboration with our African artists?
Well, the impact is really the audience that you be able to expose to them.
Yeah.
Because even when I first signed PSquare, I knew they could be huge outside of Africa if they only had the audience that they can, promote to. And that was one of the reasons why we did that album with Chop My Money in it and everything else, because I knew that all they needed was a perfect cosign of someone that the international community respects to introduce a local African artist that everyone knew.
Yes.
And clearly the music was just as good outside of Africa than it was in Africa, but people never knew it existed, so they never knew to search for it. But then Chop My Money was one of the first records on the Afro-pop level to make it on a big scale outside of Africa because of the introduction.
And that is so true. But do you think now that they've made it that way and Afropop is now more prevalent, what would it take to have Afropop on an American radio station? Because I'll tell you what, I did an interview with Mr. P from PSquare, and he mentioned the fact that when the Grammys going on, they are not projected.
Got it.
And so we talked about the fact that the music is not being played. So people don't know it, mainstream America doesn't know it. What would it take for us to have the music, which is pretty much a black music, right, played on American radios?
It's just time. I mean, because right now Afrobeat is on all American black music. Believe it or not, Afrobeat getting more play than hip hop on certain stations.
Really?
Yeah, like when you go to New York, when you go to DC, when you go to Virginia, Afrobeat is heavy. Even in Atlanta, Afrobeat is playing very, but it's just time. I think it's a matter of patience because the music is now slowly entering into the market, and they just need to give it more time to actually grow out.
Now, I'm gonna ask you this. I love your music. I cannot find one Akon song that I don't like. I love it.
Thank you.
But I have to tell you this. Sometimes the lyrics.
No, I mean,
You know what I mean?
it depends on what you in it for. That's why I make so many different type of albums. So, I mean, if you're not feeling the lyrics that day, then pick up the other album.
For sure. But listen.
Because the idea is to make music for all generations. And my generation is a lot more disruptive, and they're a lot more direct.
Yes.
So, like you're part of like my mother's generation.
Yeah.
She likes my earlier albums.
Yeah.
She's like, I like the newer records and I like the last records, but the one in between, the Convicted album with this smack that and I wanna fuck you.
Exactly.
But that is crazy because that album was my biggest album to date because the audience is just a bigger audience, right? But the way I see it, you give one audience something they love, then you give the other audience something they love. It just so happened that the audience that love that kind of music is just so much greater. So
much greater.
When you look at that exposure, the exposure is a lot bigger.
Okay, that's true. So you're catering to your different markets.
100%.
But you know what? Even those songs are beautiful until I then listen. I'm like, oh.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's gonna be some nights where you're gonna feel kind of,
it's okay.
a little more adultish.
Adultish is the way we That's right.
You like that song that night.
Yeah, I know. Right? But my kids are loving it too. That's the problem. My kids are loving it.
Yeah, they gonna spin that record on repeat because that's something it's new for them to explore. So it's a treat. Yeah.
Great melody, great music. I want to talk about something else because you are this multi-dimensional person, which we're trying to get most people to not just be an artist, a creative, but to be a business person, and you've excelled tremendously in business. What drives you?
I think with business is more competitive than it is anything else. But also, keep in mind, business is what keeps your legacy sustainable. So if you don't focus on the business first, the music aspect of it will get drowned really quick and you don't last too long. You know, when it's the music business, people focus more on the music than they actually focus on the business. And I always looked at music as a way to drive myself towards the business or the bridge towards the business, you know? So anything that I do on a business level, I always make sure that it's connected somehow to the music so it's happening seamlessly and it doesn't feel like I'm working too hard. Because the moment it starts to feel like work, then I just tune out.
I know, it's the best thing.
Right.
So if someone doesn't have a clue where to start with business, what should they do?
Well, first start with what your passion is. You gotta first know what you love to do. Because whatever you love to do, you're gonna end up doing it a lot. And anything that you do a lot, you're gonna be great at doing that. And we all know that anything that you're great at doing, people will pay you for that service.
You know, that's true.
You know?
And out of that business, you developed this passion for Africa. I don't want to say develop because you've been this African, but not everybody at your level is going back to Africa to help. So where is this bond from that you have taken this you've championed this cause for Africa?
Well, I mean, I think that question is more so two parts. The love for Africa, just being African. Okay. You know, just as an African, you have to embrace who you are and what you are. On the business level, it's the opportunity. Like, if you don't see the opportunity in Africa when it comes to business, you're simply just not a businessman.
That's right.
It's literally that simple, because Africa is like the beginning of every major developed country. You can start from the bottom. And now that the digital infrastructure is set up in Africa, there's nothing left but up. And the opportunity is just so vast that if you don't see the opportunity, I mean, you're stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a trend. Most people don't look at Africa as an opportunity.
Right.
They see challenges and they want to do the charity. Where you have gone beyond that. Is it a media narrative that is driving that mindset to look at Africa more from the charity and donations as opposed to going and getting that opportunity?
Well, me, I have a different philosophy with that because I don't believe in charity. I just don't believe in foundations. I remember when I first started my foundation with Confidence back in 2008, I realized how many rules was attached to it. And I just didn't feel like, I didn't want to have to go through all of that just to help somebody. I said, that's stupid. Why go through all this red tape just to say,
just
here
to
you
give
go?
A charity.
Right, it didn't make sense. And then I also realized that majority of the money that was being raised by all these other charities was never going towards the cause that you was raising the funds for. So I felt if you really want to do good, if you really want to give back, you got to give people jobs. You got to provide opportunities for people, because giving them the job and the opportunity now allows them to help themselves.
Yes.
So if you're not helping them help themselves, what are you really doing?
That's a good question. And that brings us to Akon Lighting Africa Initiative. So it's not a charity, is it a charity? I know there's business involved. Break it down, because there's so much out there.
It's actually a for-profit business, the Akon Lighting Africa. It started as a philanthropy of us giving lights to villages in the rural areas, and we realized just how much of a business opportunity that was. But as we did that, we would train the locals to maintain all the services that was there. So in the process of all that happening together, I said, let me just start a utility company that provided not only lights to the villages, but we also provided light to the cities and the countries. And then within that process, how we do now, we will train the locals in all the areas where we're providing the lights on how to maintain the product, how to install the product, and we would actually be providing jobs for them in the process of us getting those contracts in that area. And that just happened to work out so well because we provided so many jobs for those countries that every other country that we went, the need was already there. But now it's about, okay, are you capable of doing it? Most people that would come from other countries wouldn't be capable because then they wouldn't have the manpower to produce or deliver a project that big in those countries. It was easy for us because we just trained the locals that was already there. And they became our employees, and they became the manpower that we needed to facilitate these contracts, and it just grew really, really fast.
I know your Akon means you're massive. The money is there, but that's a massive project. So how did you fund this? Because someone is sitting, they have a great idea. How can they get the support to embark on a project?
Well, funding is always the hardest part for any major project to take off, especially in Africa. Funding is almost impossible, right? So what we had to do literally, when I first started in the beginning, my concert money became the funding to create pilots.
Okay.
And then with these pilots, that's how we proved to government that we was capable, and this is the quality of work that you will plan to receive once we are added to whatever bid that they were submitting at the moment. So we didn't just do it, we actually put our money where our mouth was. We would find a very, you could say, needed village that the government would actually choose, and we would light it for free.
Right.
And then that right there would show that we had the capabilities, we had the technology, and we would have the concept of how we utilize the locals as our employees to actually deploy those projects. And that became the selling point for us.
And beyond that, so after your pilots, how do you now go to the next phase? Because most people may start with their own little funds, but then sustaining it in the long run and really taking it off is kind of challenging.
Yeah, so once the pilot is up, now the government is paying for the project.
Okay.
But most times government is not putting up money unless they know what they're putting up the money for.
Yes.
So that's what the pilot did. The pilot allowed the government to see, okay, this is the product, this is the quality of work, and this is how we plan to scale it out, and this is the sustainability plan that you will be purchasing. And then now the government already has that in their budget to purchase, because it's the government's responsibility to provide electricity for the people.
Exactly. Well, you know, now Africa is turning a lot towards China, though. And there's a lot of talk about and concern, actually, about the role that Africa is playing in China as far as the investments that they're making. And we're kind of scared about, in the long run, what that can turn out to be. So how would you suggest that Africa work with China in a way that it doesn't end up becoming like what we've had to endure with the colonial masters, for example, like especially like France, you know, the hold that France has on, especially French African countries.
Yep. See, the difference with what France did, basis and comparing to what Chinese is doing, the French took the resources but didn't put nothing back into Africa.
Nothing.
They just took it and said, okay, this is how it's gonna go, 30, 40, 100-year contracts, we own it, bye. China is different because they're actually laying down infrastructure that they can't take with them when they leave. They can't take full roads, roundabouts, bridges. They're actually doing something in the country. So if they take minerals, in return they're building roads that you know we need. They're putting infrastructure in certain parts of Africa that you know we need. Whereas the other colonials, which was France and British and all these guys, they didn't really do anything for Africans after they took those minerals. At least the Chinese are fair to an extent, because at least they're giving us something back for those minerals. If it's not cash, it's infrastructure. And infrastructure, honestly, is more needed than money.
That's true. You know, the Germans did that in Cameroon. They actually built structures, and we still have structures that
and the Germans
built.
are doing, the Germans are doing that as well too. They're trading off infrastructure for those minerals, and I think that's the best way to go to get Africa developed up into the point where the people could take it over on their own.
However, there's still concern, because I remember that there was a concern that Zambia had literally mortgaged their country to China to the point where Chinese were going to start dictating even the language that they spoke.
That's just bad leadership. I mean, simple. The key is we need to start electing younger, smarter leaders. You know, and I always felt, and till this day I feel that way, I just don't think that in Africa there needs to be more women leaders, because the problem with Africa is that we have a specific type of culture where there's the man of the house, and his decision is the only thing that matters. So you have that ego and that pride that comes with making a decision. And when you're wrong, no man never admits they're wrong.
No one can question you.
No one can question you. This is it. And when you're dealing with government, You can't come in there with that mentality. And majority of the decisions are made for power, whereas women make decisions for family. And that's what Africa needs on a bigger level, because it allows the youth to get involved, because decisions they make, they're gonna think of their children.
Yeah.
And men don't think of the children first. They think of how I can control a region. And it's a different way of politics, because when you're developing a country and you need unity to become the prime focus of the solution, more women leaders need to be involved in Africa for Africa to develop the way it needs to be. That's always been my philosophy. I could be wrong, but I doubt it.
No, you're not wrong, because I would love to see more women in power.
For sure.
Because Africa is very patriarchal.
Yeah.
And the patriarchy dictates, like you said, that the man is in charge and he makes decisions, and even when they make wrong decisions, they're not held accountable for it. So now that we have these men sitting there, what can you tell them that if they want to create an environment where foreign investors will be interested and that people will do what's best for Africa, what should they focus on?
Well, the way I see it is if there's going to be any foreign countries that come into an African country to invest, to develop, they have to bank in the country they're doing it. And they have to invest in the country they're doing it. They can't come and make $1 billion and then ship and wire that money to their respective countries. No, that money is going to stay in the country you made it in. And then that now becomes leveraging for us to be able to utilize to continue the investment back into the country.
Yes.
So what it does, it gives you incentive to have to be a part of that country's growth, not just coming in to invest and then walking away.
Now, unfortunately, because we have this situation where we've had this tradition for decades upon decades since most African countries got independence of bad leadership, as we know. What about the youth? Now they're copying these bad habits. How are we going to break that cycle?
Well, I mean, that's the part where the youth, the youth, I don't think is copying too much of the bad cycle, because they kind of seeing a lot of the mistakes that was made, and they just need to be heard. Because I know there's a lot of coalitions of young leaders in Africa that want to be more part of government, but they're being pushed out by the elders because they're a lot more disruptive, and they're coming with more digital solutions that the elders don't understand.
Yeah, right.
You know, the newer technology solutions, the elders shy away from it because they don't know what that is. They know the old-fashioned way of governing. It's no different from when I was coming in to these countries with solar lighting back in 2009. Solar was not even popular. They was like, what is this? They didn't even understand what solar was. Exactly. But the challenge was trying to get them to understand that this is a better solution for energy for the future. But if the future doesn't exist and they haven't been educated to solar, they wouldn't know what it is. And I think with the younger leaders, they come with these younger solutions that's digitally based and is more transparent when it comes to governing. And transparency, as you know, is something that not too many people want, because they don't want the people to know what's really happening.
Exactly.
So they like, well, hold up. If they know what's happening, then they kind of expose themselves to all the corruption that's going on within the government. Absolutely. So they kind of push that away. But it's just a matter of allowing, and I hate to say it this way, but you got to allow them to die off, and then the young new generation just kind of take over.
They need to die off.
But it's patience again.
It's
patience is the key.
So how can the diaspora, we in the diaspora, empower our youth? First of all, let's start with mindsets.
Right.
How can we empower the youth so we don't have a repeat of where Africa is right now?
Well, the best way to empower youth, honestly, is to support their passion and support their vision, because they see things that we don't really see.
Right.
They're involved in a world that's developing that they understand better than we do. And sometimes we utilize our old school mentality, our old school way of thinking, and try to impose that on them, thinking that's the right way, when it may not be the right way for that specific time.
True.
And I know, because me and my mom, we go back and forth all the time. I'm like, Mom, it's a different time. No, it's not. You're African, you're gonna die African.
No.
But then I remember my dad used to say that. We're African and we're gonna die African. And my mom was like, well, so you see, as they get older, they start to realize, you know what, we're right. But you have to allow the youth to speak and understand what that is, versus just, shutting it down before you really understand what it really is. I think they have a lot to say, and they understand the future better than we actually do. Now, we may understand the past better than them, but they definitely understand the future better than us.
That's true. So let's talk about some of the things that you're doing to build the continent. You talked about lighting. First of all, why lighting? The place has so many issues when you pick lighting.
Is there so many issues? That's why we have so many issues, because we don't have no electricity.
Okay.
You know, electricity is the heartbeat of any economy. Without electricity, you can't do nothing. It's so, and then if you definitely can't see what you're doing, you shut down after 5 o'clock. The whole, I mean, candles and kerosene is not going to help you do anything. The whole world stops in Africa without electricity. So that's why I felt like that was the most important place to start, because then with electricity, you got a foundation to start building infrastructure. Then you can focus on, you know, education and healthcare and everything like that, because without electricity, you can't do anything.
That's true. And then your currency, you're also into cryptocurrency.
Right.
And is it for Africa? Is it Iconic?
No, it's Akon.
Akon.
Yeah. Yes.
Akon is your label.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Akon.
Yeah, so the Akon is the cryptocurrency. Like I said, it's going into the digital future. And that's like the digital solution for Africa. But our currency is an African coin.
Okay.
So it's the Akon. It just so happened that it sounds like Akon.
I like that.
Right? So ultimately, the whole idea is, if you go to all 54 countries in Africa, every single one of those countries have their own currency. Why is that? You got 52 states in America and it's only $1.
The dollar.
That's why the economy is so vibrant and so strong, because they all share the same currency. Africa don't share the same currency. We're all separated, divided, and put out in all these multifacets by different colonial, agendas. And our dollar continues to fall to the ground. It goes up, it falls back down, but it's never strong enough to even be of an impact anywhere outside of that specific country. And what made me do that was because I remember having a pocket full of CFA when I left Senegal. And I took a trip because I had to connect through France to go to Atlanta. But when I got on the plane, I still had all that CFA in my pocket. So I said, no worry, when I get to France, I can just transfer the CFA to the euro, and then I'm good. Now, mind you, the French make the CFA. They print CFA in France.
In France, yeah.
I get to France to change the money over. They tell me the money has no value. I said, what do you mean? You guys make this money.
Money.
You print the money here and you telling me there's no value for it? I can't spend the money in the same country that creates the money for us? That's when I knew that, everything has to change.
Yeah.
It's impossible that we can't spend the money in their country. And it's not that they make. So it was just ridiculous how the money that they made for Senegal, it's not even good enough for them to want the money.
Mind you, it's for our entire region.
No, that's my point. That's the whole entire region. But that money is not good enough for them. But they're the one that prints it and distribute it to us. So that's when I said, okay, now we definitely have to change everything, because outside of just basic infrastructure, we got to work on financial identity, and we have to be able to utilize every resource in Africa and put a value to that. And that was the whole purpose of creating the Akon, because that will now be able to create one simple currency for the whole continent, but on a digital scale where currencies and money is going in the future anyway.
But cryptocurrency, most of us are just barely catching up to what it is actually. So will we start with maybe education, or what's the plan?
Well, the plan is all education. And you're right, most people don't understand exactly what cryptocurrency is. But Africa been utilizing cryptocurrency before they even knew what cryptocurrency
Really?
was. Africa was the first to have mobile money and mobile transaction. That's crypto. That's exactly what it is. It's digital currency. That's cryptocurrency.
Break it down for me, because someone has explained this thing so many times, and I'm still, the only thing they say, when they say Bitcoin, okay, but what is really cryptocurrency, and how does it work?
Don't get caught up in any of the technical stuff, because then you get confused.
Right.
Just know that it's money.
Okay.
And money that can transfer from one section to another section digitally.
Okay.
Whether it's a phone, a computer, a tablet, just look at it that way. Like, prime example, to make it simple. Now I'm gonna get just a little bit technical, but not too far to throw you off. You have the dollar,
yes,
which is a currency.
Yes.
You have the pound, which is a currency.
Yes.
You have the euro, which is a currency, and you have
A
coin,
okay,
which is a currency. Okay, if you take $1 and you go into London, you switch that money over, and guess what? You can't spend the dollar in London because you have to spend what? The pound. So you trade the pound, the dollar for the pound, and now you can spend it, right? Nothing complicated about that, right?
Nothing.
All right. Now, let's say I wanted to buy something on the Apple Store. I have a certain amount of money in my bank account. But the only way now to buy that song on the Apple Store is I got to do it through Apple Pay.
Right.
So I transfer my dollars into Apple Pay, and now I have the song.
Yes.
So all you really did was take the fiat currency, which is the actual dollar, and trade it into a digital currency, which is Apple Pay in this case.
Yes.
Now, it ain't nothing but just another currency.
Exactly.
You still following, right?
Yes, I'm
all right.
with you.
Now, imagine if you had CFA, for instance. CFA, for instance, which is as your money. And you wanted to buy something on Alibaba. And Alibaba accepts Akon.
Right.
You would be able to go and purchase whatever that merchandise is for whatever amount of Akons that merchandise is worth, and then through the platform, it automatically transformed the amount of CFA that you would have to give to buy that.
Oh, okay.
So it's just currency, but just digital.
Digital.
That's it.
Okay. Well, I hope that we're learning.
It's literally that
Little by
simple.
little.
But don't think about blockchain and
Exactly.
all that just
We
confuses
just
you.
get caught up and lost.
Yes.
So at what stage is Akon right now? Is it where on a Pan-African level, especially for the continent, it's cutting across?
Yeah, right now it's fully developed. The platform is fully developed. The money actually exists. Now we're in beta testing and checking in certain regions of Africa, certain regions of America, because it was built for Africa, but it's a worldwide platform that will be able to be adapted in any emerging country and be able to utilize it in that country as well too. So we're doing beta testing up until maybe March before we do the official launch and put it into the market.
Yeah. So you think crypto or digital currency is going to be a solution to most of Africa's problems?
It's completely the digital. I mean, it is the solution. And the reason why I say that is because it offers all the pieces that Africa don't have now, which is the main piece is the transparency. And as you know, lack of transparency is the reason why you have all this,
Yes.
corruption going on. And corruption is the reason why Africa can't grow.
Yes, it is. And what are we going to do about that greed? Because, sometimes people want to invest in Africa, but they're scared. I've heard people say they've gone with X amount of money and they couldn't get anything done because everybody wants something, and then by the time you know it, you don't have enough.
You don't have enough. And that's the beautiful part about with Akon, being the fact that it's crypto, you can actually follow that money. You can know where it went, who it went to, how much of it went to that person, and then where it went from there. Like, you can literally follow that trail all the way until it just can't go no more.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's so beautiful. Let me talk about diaspora issues. It's time for people of African descent to work together. But I have to tell you, as somebody that came to this country as an African, it was sometimes a little tough to integrate with my African American brothers and sisters. And there's a perception that Africans don't like them or that we're taking the opportunities and all of that. But isn't it time for us to get along?
I thought we always got along. I think that state of mind makes people believe that it's untrue, but everywhere that I go, they're actually in harmony, they're actually moving, they're working together. I mean, I don't think there's an issue there outside of just lack of educating each other to each other's cultures.
Right.
But I don't think there's no specific, animosity or no thought process of they don't like us, we don't like them. I think that was all a part of a propaganda that was just built to, again, make people fear going to Africa.
Right.
Because when I was African, I wanted to be American, not realizing I was already American.
Right.
I had an American passport. So that was one of the happiest days of my life, knowing I actually had an American passport, right? But most people, and that's, you go to Africa, everybody wants an American passport.
Absolutely.
So clearly, Africans don't dislike Americans, but what it is these little, agenda and politics, and it's really more so about control and population, control to an extent where, just imagine if the story was the other way around.
Yeah.
then all African Americans would really want to go back to Africa and never come back.
That's true.
Imagine what that would do to an American. Imagine what that would do to America. Imagine what that would do to the economy. Imagine what that would do to, I mean, just imagine if America had no black people.
Imagine.
Just imagine that.
We wouldn't be sitting in here right
Just
now. This
imagine that. It would. I mean, it would be so. It would just. They would become Africa. Well, what they think Africa is today, that's what that would. That's what they would become.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you think media has played a big
100%.
role in destroying
Absolutely
that relationship that we could have had?
I mean, I think that the relationship is there. Well, our generation at least is there.
Yes.
You know, the older generation, I know that mind state is clearly there because that's when the work was being done.
Right.
But our generation, I mean, there's none but peace and harmony on our end.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I still want to talk about that because the attitudes of African Americans towards Africa. However, recently, the president of Ghana, I think he extended an olive branch and he did this year of the return for African Americans, but I don't know if African Americans are taking advantage to go to Africa and find out for themselves what Africa is, because sometimes we're embarrassed because of the stories and I don't want to associate with being African.
Right.
The enlightened ones are there, but there is still the mindset of that identity, that
Right.
African identity, that's still a problem for them.
But I think that's one of the most noble things that he could have ever done. You know, the president of Ghana shooting that invitation says a lot because
Exactly.
it shows that, okay, whatever it is you're thinking, that's not what we're thinking.
Absolutely.
We want you to come. We want you to invest. We want you to explore. We want you to relive your ancestry moments and understand who you really are and where you really come from. So the door is open. And I think that invitation is going to definitely invite and trigger more people to motivate them to go and visit.
Yes.
You know, because in December, I know in Atlanta, everybody talking about being in Ghana December. New York as well, because it's young. And then the festivities is all young and vibrant anyway. So it's nothing like that's gonna make you go and feel, you know, sad. Because
Right.
it's all festive. And I think when you invite from a festive, you know, angle, it just changes the dynamic of making people want to really be there.
So how can we make media narratives that paint a better picture?
Really, you really can't. You can't really control the media as to what they put out, but you can control what you put out to the media. And I think it's Africa's responsibility to brand it. I think it's Africa's responsibility to tell that story. And the moment we continue to wait for our story to be told, nothing's gonna change because the story never changes when they tell it. It only changes when we tell it.
So ultimately it's up to us.
It's 100% up to us.
Ah, that's so brilliant. So let's talk about family.
I don't never talk about family.
Well, family is good.
I don't.
The family is doing good.
They're doing great.
All right, okay. Well, my question was just simply going to be, based on your music.
My family's doing great.
Just, you know, based on your music and everything I was going to say, Akon, is he the romantic man like he sounds
Actually,
in his
you know what?
music?
I've never seen myself to be a romantic type of person. You know?
Really?
I'm not romantic, but
So how do you get that inspiration to sing all of those songs?
that's because I make songs for romantic people. And I think when you make romantic songs for romantic people, they just assume you're romantic.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm probably a very nice person at heart. I'm a lovable person. But I think romance takes a different type of energy.
Okay.
And I think I haven't had the time to explore my romantic side. But I'm romantic, I guess, to the people that I think I'm romantic to and hope that I am. But me personally, I've just never been a romantic person. Because you got to be really, like, I think you just have to be, I don't know, it's really hard to explain it when you're not romantic. But
Let's not worry about
I just
it.
try to do nice things and just hope it comes off romantic, if that makes sense.
So what's Akon working on these days? Because we've missed those sweet songs. I thought you were going to say, because
Well,
now you just burst somebody's bubble and now you're
No. But the good thing is, I have a collectible of albums coming. I just dropped the Latin album, which is all in Spanish. But if you don't speak Spanish, you won't know what I'm saying, but you're gonna love the album because it's gonna be. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's actually out now, called El Negrito. I dropped it last month for the Latin market. Then I dropped Akon, which is the Afrobeat album. That was dropped 2 weeks ago, which is available now. Then I got the Concrete album, which is the R&B hip hop album that's coming in December. And then the Jamacon, which will be the reggae album that's gonna come in spring.
Yeah, that iconic label has all this Akon and all the different genres you do
Right.
pretty much. Why did you choose to just do all of them?
Well, just so we don't be caught up in one genre. I never wanted to be the kind of artist that was just known for one specific genre, but I wanted to open it up to where I can really satisfy all my fans.
Right.
You know, because when you got a world fan base that's mixed with so many different, you know, cultures and so many different, you know, groups of people, you want to be able to satisfy all of them. Most times they say you can't satisfy everybody, but I just always disagreed. I just feel like, you know, every genre don't normally communicate, because hip hop people only listen to hip hop.
Yeah.
You know, country only listen to country.
Exactly.
You know, Latin only listen to Latin.
Where we come from, we listen to all.
We listen to all of it. So I said I'm gonna make an album for every genre, and then no matter what playlist you create on Spotify, Google, Apple, you know, Amazon, I'm gonna be on there somewhere.
What happened to Balax in all of this?
Oh, Malak, I got a Malak album right now, so you don't even know it exists.
I don't know.
Yes,
For
I got a
real?
Malak album that's in stores right now with Yusu and Dude. I mean, we
that's
got
true,
some
Yusu
great
and
records out there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
This is exactly why I do multiple genres, because like I said, if you listen to one type of music, you don't listen to the other.
That's true.
Yeah.
You see, you got me there.
Right.
Well, I loved Balax. The
Malak.
dance. Is it
Yeah,
Balak?
yeah, Malak.
Balak.
Malak.
Balak.
There you go.
It's so majestic.
No, that's a lot of energy in Balak.
Yeah, that's the thing.
A lot of
You need
energy.
enough room when you dance.
Absolutely. No. Yeah, none of this could exist in Balak. All this would be falling to the floor.
So, what about Senegal? What do you love about Senegal?
I mean, Senegal is home. You cannot not love home, you know.
Yeah, it's home
Yeah,
too.
you love everything about Senegal.
So, what would you say to, last words, dreamers, young people who aspire to music and see you and think, this is what I want to do?
Well, I mean, that's really a tough one, because dreams, just, if you don't follow through on them, just going to continue to be dreams at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to really want it. You have to know what you really want, and don't do it because you have to know it. Like some things that happen in life when you're following a specific passion, your energy is gonna take you towards that direction anyway.
Right.
How bad you want it, or how much you want to succeed, would all determine on how much work you actually put into it. You know, but I think if you following a dream, it's all or nothing. You can't have one foot in, one foot out. It's impossible it's already impossible to go back to a dream. Have you ever actually dreamt in real life, and then you wake up in the middle of the dream, and you try to hurry up and go back to sleep?
Yeah, I need that dream right back.
You never get it back.
It's done.
It's done. And that's how it is in real life.
Yeah.
Like when there's a dream, you're going after it, you have to go full speed for it, because the moment you cut out and try to go back to it, you'll never be able to achieve it.
So no matter how tough you
got to stay in it.
gotta stay in it.
Right.
So I want to ask you, I meant to ask you, how far with Akon Lighting Africa, how far are we right now? What's been the impact? What have you seen?
Oh man, I mean, we're in 17 countries, impacting I don't know how many people. Just imagine how many people in 17 countries. It's a lot, and it's continuing to grow. We just started, Akon Lighting America, where we're based in North Carolina, where our main hub is, but then we're having projects in Texas and Arizona. So it's doing amazing.
Are you lighting America too?
Yeah, so American, it's not necessarily lighting America, but we're a part of the initiative to where we're transforming traditional energy into renewable energy.
Okay,
so we're playing the role of, like when you drive and you see those solar you see those solar rooftops in businesses, that's what we're doing.
Oh, okay, that's good, that's good. So last word for the fans, especially your Afrocentric fans.
I don't know what to tell you. Just
much love.
Much love.
No romance, just love.
Right. With Africans, they like, man, we know everything already. What is he going to tell me? No, I'm just joking. But I think, it's really, because that's such a broad perspective. But one thing I can say is I think the unity piece is super important, and I always stress that, because Africa's weakest link is unity. And I think the moment we come together as a people to move in one direction, all of our problems will be solved. I really honestly believe that.
And to our African American community about Africa, what it represents to them?
No, they just tend to take a trip.
Take a trip.
With that, you can't say much. Yeah, they have to literally go. They have to want to be there. And I think if you're going to take a vacation, there's no better place than to go and find yourself. And Africa is the same distance from New York to LA. Senegal is 6 hours from New York to Senegal. And that's the same distance from New York to LA, same price ticket. But if you don't know that, you just don't do it. But the fact that you don't know means you don't care. Right. And I think they need to just take more time and just take a trip. Just see for your own eyes what it really is.
But they're gonna say it's not luxurious to them.
No, it's not about luxury. It's like luxury, if that's what you're living for, then you're already living for the wrong thing. You know?
Go find your roots.
You have to. It's important.
Yeah. So I've heard you being described, and I do believe it, as a Bill Gates of Africa. We need more people to step up. Do you take it as a compliment?
Nah. I think what Bill Gates and his wife is doing is amazing, especially on the foundation side. What I do take it as a compliment from the philanthropy side.
Right.
On the because normally when you think of that name, you think rich and famous, right? Rich, and I never looked at money as money to me is just a tool. Mm-hmm. It's not something that you can celebrate for, because I just always believe that God put fortune through your hands to service.
Right.
You know, I don't think it's something that you hold on to brag about having billions of dollars in the bank when you got people starving.
I know, doesn't make any sense.
To me, it's the craziest thing in the world. Like, how do you have billions just sitting there?
Certificate of billionaireship.
And you see people literally in need.
Yeah.
When you, like, just in need. It's just, I never grasped that concept. So, but from a standpoint of utilizing what those values that come into someone that actually need it, to me, that's the focus.
Yeah. Social entrepreneur, what is that?
Social entrepreneur, that's me to the core.
What does it mean?
That means someone an entrepreneur that creates businesses that socially impacts people. Like, I don't get into any business that doesn't have an impact or doesn't create an impact for people. I mean, I just don't. If it's not an impact business, I'm not interested.
I'm sure you suggest most of us we need more social entrepreneurs for Africa. Do you agree?
I need more entrepreneurs in Africa. Period.
Period.
Yeah, because when you got money, you're gonna do good things naturally. I think the more successful you get, your spirit just takes you towards, philanthropy by nature. You can't really help it. Yeah.
Well, my brother, you are that and more.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for teaching Africans how to fish and not giving them fish.
That's the key.
Keep forging ahead, and we'll keep praying for you. And
no, thank you.
Everything's going to be good.
Man.
Thank you so much for doing Africa Speaks.
You got it.
And this is Africa Speaks with Pamela Anchang, sitting here with Akon, the one that is known by that singular name. Hope you learned some lessons, and see you next time on Africa Speaks.